Welcome everybody to episode 2, season 2. This is crazy to say this because I've always had this vision of the trans lesson plan being so much more by 2023 in the way life had hit me in the year 2021, 22. I'm just glad that I was able to start it back up. But welcome everybody to the trans lesson plan, a podcast that explores the rich and complex history of transgender individuals, their experiences, and of course, any additional transgender knowledge. I am your host, Amari McGee. You can call me Mari for short. This is why I say Mari in the middle, but Amari McGee is my full name. People call me Mari for short. I already just repeated everything I just said, but I just kind of want to emphasize that one more time. If you don't know who I am, I highly recommend you check out season 2, episode 1 podcast, which goes a little bit deeper into who I am, why I started this podcast. Just so you all know, I am a Black transgender man, so I'm not somebody trying to use this podcast for anything else but educational purposes. So I want to help everybody who is listening out right now to gain a deeper understanding and appreciation of transgender history and really possibly your own or anyone else you know's real life experiences. So today's episode is going to be talking about the remarkable life of Hannah Snell, a woman who defied gender norms and expectations to pursue her dreams of serving in the British Army in the 18th century. To get started into today's episode, Hannah's early life. She was born in Worcester, England on April 23rd, 1723, into a family that struggled to make ends meet. She married young, but her husband had soon abandoned her, leaving her to fend for herself. I feel like we've all heard a story like this before in our lives, and you might know somebody personally like this. You might be yourself. I will hope it's not yourself, but I feel like we heard this before. Women marry young, back in the day, especially, not now as much, but, and the husband abandoning them is also very similar to today's times as well. So you would think that time would progress and, evolve, but men would be men, even including myself. I'm not going to abandon somebody I love, but you get the point. Determined to survive, Snell took on odd jobs and even dressed as a man to work as a coal miner. I want you guys to know that being a coal miner is not an easy job. Even today, like back then though, now we have a lot of technology, I'm sure, that can kind of help out with any type of coal mining, jobs, at least the hardest labor piece of that. But think about back then in the 18th century where they didn't have all the technology that we have today. Hannah decided that she wanted to go out and dress as a man to be a coal miner. Just think about that. What kind of woman want to be a coal miner? It's a very dirty job. It's a rigorous job. It's a hard job. It takes a lot of effort to that job. Sheesh, I got to applaud her right now. To get a little bit deeper into Hannah's life, however, Hannah Snell yearned for something a little bit more fulfilling and adventurous. So she was inspired by stories of soldiers and military life and decided to enlist in the army. In August of 1744, she disguised herself as a man and enlisted in the Royal Marines under the name of James Gray. She underwent rigorous training and became a skilled soldier, serving in India and also in Europe. Real quick before I continue, I just want to kind of talk about James Gray here as a disguise name. Now, I thought about this for a little bit because I was like, James Gray, like out of all names, why would you choose James Gray? And the thing about it, James Gray isn't going to be something that you detect and you look at me like, this name seems a little bit odd. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if she tried to go with something very odd or outrageous, like Lambskin Jones or something like that, I know that's very outrageous, but something like that, I think she would probably, people probably investigate that. Like, what the hell is a Lambskin Jones? Like, who is that? Why is that a name? So I think Hannah going under James Gray is very smart. Because James Gray is just a very basic name. I don't think people really investigate a James Gray name. But Lambskin Jones, they'll probably investigate that. I will investigate it. But during her time in the military, Snell proved to be an exceptional soldier, gaining the respect of fellow soldiers who had no idea that she was a woman. She fought in battles, performed on missions, and even served as a spy. Her experience in the military made her a well-rounded soldier, and she gained valuable skills that she later used to pursue a career in performing arts. Obviously, later in life, Snell's military career came to an end in 1750 when she was shot in the groin during a battle. She was taken to the hospital where her true identity was discovered. After she was discharged from the hospital, she was given an honorable discharge from the army and returned to England. Now, I want you guys to know that thinking about how long Hannah was in the military, that was back in 1744, and her career came to an end in 1750. She did a very good damn job of disguising herself for that long before they actually identified her true identity, that she was a woman. And to think that you would think at some point you'll get caught, right? You know, you're doing 6 years of army work under a alias, and throughout all the battles, the missions, and even as serving as a spy, you would think that somebody would have been able to put the pieces together. Now, I don't really know how the military worked back then of, bedding, showering. I would think it's similar to today. So I wonder how Hannah was able to kind of finagle that for so many years. So it's very interesting to hear. But despite her discharge, of course, Hannah's story did not end there. She went on to have a successful career as a performer, recounting her military experiences on stage. Her shows were incredibly popular, and she even performed with King George II and his court. Her performances challenged societal norms and gender roles, inspiring other women to pursue their dreams and ambitions. Hannah's legacy as a trailblazer for women's rights and gender equality cannot be overstated. She defined gender roles and expectations, paving the way for future generations of women to pursue careers in male-dominated fields. Her story is a testament to the resilience and strength of the human spirit, so we could all obviously learn from her as an example. As you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, being able to take on what people would consider to be a fear back in that day, right? Women didn't really work that much in the 18th century. They were supposed to be more like stay-at-home wives, take care of the kids, not working at all, really. And the husbands normally go out and they make all the cash, right? So Hannah, which we can obviously tell from the beginning of this story that she really wanted to enjoy her life the way that she wanted, regardless of what people would think or say about her, puts a testament on that title of a trailblazer. Who wants to listen to the military? Back in the 18th century, right? Nobody, who the fuck want to do that? Nobody wants to do that. I think not many people wanted to do that. So the respect of saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to live my life from a woman's rights, and also too, as well as a gender equality thing of taking on a male-dominated field of being in the military back in the 18th century. You have to look at that resilience and that strength of this woman. And I can only applaud her, because if it was me back in the 18th century, I don't know what I would have done. I know that today's times are obviously a lot different from back then. The military is still just as iffy, of course, but this is an incredible story to look into and to think about. Of course, if you all want to learn more about Hannah's life, you can start with where I like to get most of my information from, which is the Digital Transgender Archives. That's www.digitaltransgenderarchive.net is where you can get a little bit more information about this story, see some pictures. Also, the internet is a great place to start. So if you look up Hannah Snell's legacy, you can learn a lot more about Hannah and her life if I have not spoken about it in this podcast today. So with that, like I said, please appreciate Hannah Snell's legacy as a trailblazer for women's rights and gender equality. As her testament, or her story is a testament, of course, to the resilience of strength of the human spirit. Thank you all for tuning into this episode about the remarkable life of Hannah Snell. I hope you all enjoyed learning a little more about her life. Please follow, subscribe to our podcast to learn more fascinating transgender history stories about these remarkable people. Today's podcast, all donations, if you decide to support this podcast, goes to the funding of To Better Understand Incorporated and the Trans Life Awards. Please share this podcast on all your social media accounts. You can follow the podcast at Trans Lesson Plan on both Instagram and also on Twitter. Keep up with up-to-date new episodes and things of that nature. The website will be up soon momentarily. So if you want to subscribe to our mailing list to be the first one to know a little bit more about the trans lesson plan, you can absolutely do so. Please tell your friends. They can listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And my name is Mark. I appreciate you all for listening out today. Please stay tuned for next week's episode as we will continue on the understanding and appreciation of transgender history. That's today's episode. I appreciate you all, and I will see you all next week. Peace.